No. It's an interesting word, isn't it? It's only 2 letters long. And still, it's probably the most powerful and yet also the scariest word in the entire English language.
And today we will be talking about saying no and why that is so important, both in personal life and in business.
Myself, I'm convinced that being able to say no is such a crucial key to be able to have a happy life. And I have a lot of good ideas about how to say no. The thing is that these ideas, they work very well in that land of unicorn and rainbows. The idea world where everything turns out perfect. But unfortunately, I realized that I live in the messy world of humans where I have emotions and desires and all these kind of things that makes me not really do what I have said that I will do. For example, this week I was making a video on YouTube about how to say no to a friend's dinner invitation. And my buddy was filming me and I couldn't find the right words to say, and I was had a little bit of a headache and why am I so tired? And I realized, oh yeah, I was up until 1:30 in the morning the day before when I told myself that I should go to bed. And I did that because I had a friend that I hadn't seen in 6 months and he was coming over for a dinner. So I was having a dinner with and I realized that I'm too tired to do my video about how to say no to a friend's dinner invitation because I didn't say no to my friend's dinner invitation. I realized that I need help and also that saying no, it's a more tricky thing in reality than in the idea world. And it's something that at least I continuously want to practice doing. Eric, that was a long rant. Say something.
That was such a long rant. I'm sitting here I'm started with this feeling, wow, this is such a smooth intro we're playing together, and then this is the longest intro ever. But I'm enjoying it. So I'm going to say no. I'm not going to interrupt you. I want you to keep going forever, ever.
All right. Then I will do a brief introduction of my co-partner in this podcast, Eric Bergman, the founder of Great.com, one of my best friends, one of the most initiative-taking people that I know, an implementer from out of this world. That's all I say about you today, Eric. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm excited about this. I didn't think I would be excited about this. I got this feeling like I don't want a podcast today, but I wasn't strong enough to say no. No, I actually didn't want to say no. I want to do this because I'm here with you, my beautiful buddy Emil, who looks a little bit like PewDiePie for you who haven't met him. Really beautiful PewDiePie. And he is the first guy who joined me into this project of Great. He's the host of this podcast and annoyingly smart and funny and fun to do a podcast with. And we're here doing the podcast Becoming Great, which is a podcast we want to create a better world. And we believe that entrepreneurship is the way to do that. So this is a podcast for people who want to be part of that community and creating a better world through entrepreneurship.
That is right. And right now we're doing this recording at 6 p.m. at night instead of 8 a.m. as we normally do. I have a bit of it feels like we're in front of a fireplace, out in the wood, and we're telling stories to each other. That's the kind of mood I have now. I feel more playful than normal when we're in business mode. We want to get things done. I'm not going to stick to the agenda at all. You're going to have to know.
I'm feeling that. No. Yes, usually we have planned stuff and Emil is just going all over the thing. It feels like I'm trying to do a podcast with a golden retriever.
I'm not going to do something else. This is going to happen a lot in this episode, isn't it?
Yeah, no. Because I'm going to practice to say no. I'm going to say no, golden retriever. No.
So how much are you saying no in your life? Is this something you are struggling with, or is it something you're very good at?
It's something that I'm getting better at, and I would still say that I'm struggling. The first story that comes to mind for me is I went to the cinema the other day, and I went to see this really depressing movie, The Joker. And I knew when we went to this movie that I was like, I don't want to see this movie. It's a depressing movie. I want to laugh. I don't want to see depressing movies. But we still went to this movie, and 1 minute into this movie, this clown who you know is just going to have a really shitty life gets beaten up by a bunch of kids, and it's just really sad and really miserable. And I feel that, so I get really affected by bad things on TV. I don't want to see that. And I just feel, ooh, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. Why am I here? And for the next 20 minutes, I have this inner dialogue with myself. Why am I here? I don't want to see this movie. I don't want to do this. And after a while, I catch myself asking myself, so why am I here right now? So I'm here with my fiance. Am I here for her? It's like, no, I'm not here for her, because she would be okay with me leaving. She knows I don't like this kind of movie. Am I here for my fiance's friends who are there with us? No, I don't actually care if I want to impress them or not. Am I here for me? No, I don't want to be here. Am I here because I'm too lazy to stand up? Yes, that's the reason why I'm still here. And I realized that's a really shitty reason to be there. So after a while, 20 minutes into this movie that just doesn't fit my view of a good movie, I stand up and leave. So it takes me 20 minutes to get to a no that I knew from the beginning that I wanted to say no to. But at least I got to the no.
Mm. I think that's an interesting example, actually.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think if you would have asked me, if I would have been in that exact same situation a year ago, I would have stayed the full movie, and then I would have been very pissed afterwards and just been complaining about the movie all the time. And now I'm A, I left the movie, and I'm B, I'm catching myself several times not saying it was a shitty movie, instead trying to say it wasn't a movie that fitted my taste. Which is challenging because I believe it's a shitty movie, but I want to say it doesn't fit my taste.
So I like that movie, actually. So
you've seen it?
Yeah, I saw it this Saturday.
I went to see it this Saturday as well. And so it didn't, I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. I'm going to say it's not a movie for me.
I only looked at the filming, though. I'm totally nerding out in filmmaking at the moment.
I love that. Okay, so why is it so important to say no then? Why did you want to have this conversation today?
Well, I think there are many reasons why saying no is important. And one that comes to mind in this example is that I think saying no is a shortcut to being more authentic. And in this case, for two reasons. First of all, if you start saying no to things that you don't really feel like doing, and you only say yes to things that really resonates with what your heart wants, or that you're willing to do with kind of an inner smile on your face because it will get you to a place where you can live out your passion. I think the more you say no to things that isn't that, I think the more you're going to end up being things that really resonates with your personality. So
you're saying a lot of complicated words, Anna. When you say being authentic with yourself, what do you mean?
Okay, so when you say no to the things that you are not, the things that you are will remain. Think of it like if a sculptor is going to create a statue, he gets this big block of stone. And his job now is to remove all the things. Nope, no, don't want that stone, until what is left is his preference. And that is his expression.
So you got this big, let's say the world is this big block of things. And if you say yes to everything, you will only be one big block of rock. And you're not really be anything beautiful at all. But if you start saying no to a lot of different things there, you can create whatever is your most beautiful picture of the world is by knocking away those pieces of stone. And that becomes your authentic image of who you want to be.
Exactly. And you get to choose when you say no, right? Because if you don't make those decisions, someone else is going to make them for you. And then you're going to become someone else's statue. what someone else thinks is nice, what someone else wants out of you and your life. And in my world, being less authentic.
If you're not saying no, then someone else will do that for you. Elaborate.
Yes. So if you and I meet and we go to the movie and you want to see, okay, we're getting stuck in the movie example. You want to see some happy movie. Now, if I don't say no, that means that I'm going to play out what is actually your version.
Yeah.
What is authentic for you.
That's how I ended up in the Joker movie, because Johanna wanted to see it and I really didn't want to see it, but I didn't say no.
Exactly, but you didn't, because you said no, right? Then you actually live the life that you want, and you become the expression of Eric that you prefer. And the more of your time that you spend doing things that you actually want, that your heart resonates with, the more similar you will be to the statue you want to be.
And if I would have been a little bit more present with myself and a little bit more aware, I would have said no even before the movie, because I already knew I didn't want to see it.
Yeah, well, it took a long time to cut away that stone.
Yeah, that stone was really hard.
And that's fine, I think. But and to me, that process that you're going through for those 20 minutes, that is the beautiful part, not necessarily the result. Because that is where learning takes place.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see if I can paraphrase this in a good way. If you're saying yes to everything, if you're not saying no to the things you want to say no to, you end up living the lives of others. Because at the end of the day, every yes you say to something is immediately something no, a no to something else. If we stick to the movie example, by me saying yes to going to the Joker means that I'm actually saying no to seeing The Lion King. Even though I would much rather see The Lion King.
Or go home, go to bed, rest, wake up the next day and be creative with one of your passion projects.
By saying,
Instagram.
By saying yes to the dinner with your friend for that long as well, you said no to being rested and doing that video that you really look forward to.
Exactly.
So say, if you don't really want to listen to this podcast right now, say no and go to bed.
Don't listen to him. Stay on. Watch time.
Oh,
YouTube is watching.
So you could say like this, that you shouldn't say no to things that Emil tells you to say yes to.
Exactly.
Then it makes sense. It's okay to not be authentic as long as it's you.
I would be a great dictator. Joking aside, I think one other huge upside that you give to your friends in this situation by saying no to the movie is that if your friends can trust that you will say no when you don't want to do something, they will also trust that when you say yes to something, that you actually really want to do it. So the next time you and your fiancé goes to a movie and you sit there and you watch the whole thing, she knows that you liked it. She doesn't even have to ask.
Yeah, that's true.
So she has trust that you are enjoying the things you're doing with her. She doesn't have to sit there and have an assumption. I wonder if Eric likes this movie or if this is too dark for him.
Yeah, that's true. So you could basically sum that up as, if you can trust that someone will say no when they want to say no, you can also trust that when they're saying yes, they really mean the yes.
Yeah,
so
totally.
The first thing that comes to mind for me now is the habit of saying, oh, this food tastes so good, if you're kind of getting food from someone. And just because that is so habitual and something that we have been taught to do since like forever, it doesn't mean anything. Or if someone comes from the hairdresser, like, yeah, nice haircut. It doesn't really mean anything because you're expected to say it.
Exactly. So my roomie is taking this to the extreme. And whenever I play a song or I make food or I ask him for something, he will always tell me, no, I don't like this song. Is it okay if I change? Or, no, I don't like it. He's always saying when he doesn't like something, which I thought
even if you don't ask for it, or just if you ask for it?
If it's music or something that he's affected by, he will say, I don't like this music. Is it okay if we change or shut it off?
Uh-huh.
And so he's always telling me if he doesn't like something in the environment, which in the beginning I got offended by. But now I think it's such a relief. I don't have to worry if, like, am I disturbing him right now? Because I know that he would tell me. So it's so easy to live with him.
Oh, that's good. But yeah, the key there is that he is affected by it. So let's say you did come home with a new haircut, for example, and he thought that it was ugly. He wouldn't say it was ugly if you didn't specifically ask him.
No, but if I did ask, he would say that, I think.
Yeah.
Or say, it's not my preference.
Yeah, it's not my preference. That's a good way of phrasing it.
And I think these are tiny situations, but especially in relationships, I think it makes such a huge difference. I remember you said, I don't know where you got that from, but how important this is in sex.
Yeah, it's everything.
That if you can't trust that someone is saying no if they don't want to do something, you can't also trust that they actually like what you're doing. And it becomes, the effect is even bigger there. The more intimate you are, and that's why I used sex as an example now, the more intense that effect becomes of not being able to trust someone that isn't saying no.
Yeah. And I think one really good example of this that I'm guessing that everyone, at least everyone who had sex, can relate to, and it's when to actually stop having sex. That, okay, now I'm not really feeling that I want to do this anymore, but she seems excited, or the other way around, where she might not be excited anymore, but I'm excited. It's like, if I'm not telling her I want to stop, I'll just keep on going for her. And I don't even know if she wants to do it or not doing it. We end up maybe both of us having sex with someone who doesn't want to have sex while we don't want to have sex ourselves.
Yeah.
Just because...
What happens then? If you feel like you have to do something you don't really want to do.
Yeah, I mean, both of us just create negative associations to sex.
Totally. And resentment.
Yeah, it's just a really shit. And it's really hard to say. If I don't feel like I don't want to have sex anymore for whatever reason, maybe something popped into my head. It's a really tricky thing to say. Yeah. And we haven't been taught how to say it. And at least before, now I'm getting better at this. But before it was feel like, okay, if I'm saying that I don't want to have sex anymore, is she going to feel that she's not beautiful? Is she going to feel that something is wrong with her? And I get all concerned about her, when in fact it's just, I started thinking about this job thing that I'm actually really worried about, and it kind of killed the mood for me, but I don't want to say that because then she knows that I'm thinking about work while we're having sex, and that's not a good situation. So if you can't trust the no, you can't trust the yes.
Totally. And saying something like that, if you've never done it before, it will break trust in the short term.
Yeah.
But I think over time, it builds so much trust.
Yeah, for sure.
I think if you said those things, yes, it would bother her that you're thinking about work in bed. But she might suspect that you're doing that anyway if you look distracted. But she might think, is he thinking about porn? Is he thinking about some other woman? Is he thinking about, am I unattractive? And she has no idea you're thinking about work.
Yeah, right? I mean, she always gets frustrated when we're having sex and I'm taking notes. And it's she starts to think something is off then when she reads what I'm writing about business during. Yeah. So business then. Let's move on. We're getting stuck on sex. It's too much of an interesting topic. But now I'm saying no to talking about sex and saying, let's move on. What's the next point on the agenda, my good friend?
So, would you like to elaborate on saying no in business and when and why that is important?
So in business, saying no is so crucial. I read this quote. I'm not sure it was from Steve Jobs or if it was from some other guy at Apple, but it said something in line with, the brilliance of Apple isn't that we do all the really, really good ideas, is that we say no to the really good ideas and we only do the best ideas. That the key here is to say no to pretty much everything. So you can go on that super duper best idea and just do it. And I think especially in like Apple's perspective, when you have that huge brand, if they would put that little Apple logo on a toaster, they would be able to sell it like crazy. But if they say yes to the toaster idea, they would be toast. Pun not intended, but too good not to do it. So yeah, I think it's very, very crucial in business to say no because you want to keep your focus. If you're saying yes to everything just because you're excited, you're screwed.
But isn't that mostly if you are a big brand then? Like, yeah, of course, Apple can't do everything in the world, but let's say that you have a small company. How would you know which thing is the best or the great opportunity if you haven't already said yes to a bunch of different things, unless you haven't already tried everything that crosses your path?
It's a good point. I think that very early on in a business or in your life for that matter, it's important to say yes to pretty much as many things as possible. But what becomes even more important then is to quickly say no if you feel that this is not a good idea. So you can say yes to going to seeing that Joker movie, but only if you're not going to stay to the end if it sucks. So it's pretty much the same thing. If you try a new business idea, and if you realize 20 minutes into that business that this is not going to work, you have to say no and give up, even if that means that you're losing the ticket that you already paid for.
Don't you need to put some effort into learning something new, though, before it gets exciting? So, for example, I tried to learn playing the piano. And if you never played before, like learning to play the piano for the first time is like the perfect recipe for a headache. Like nothing works, you're trying to hit the right keys and you get no results. You can't even play a song. So I quit. And yet I imagined that I would really enjoy the piano if I actually stick through maybe the first and the second and the third Joker movie. Joker 4 would be very enjoyable.
You imagine, you don't know. Probably it would still suck. Well, it's possible. I mean, it's possible that if you keep on struggling, you keep on fighting, it might get fun. It might become a good idea. But then again, maybe there is something else that is fun from the first try. If you just try 5 different things instead of sticking with the piano, that might be fun somewhere down the line. If you're sticking with this business idea that doesn't work the first week, maybe it works the second year. Yeah, or you just go with something where you feel passionate, where it feels easy to do, where you're going somewhere, where you see progress, when you meet inspiring people. Whatever it is, if you're looking for a lot of different things and you find things that you have a natural talent for, that you really enjoy, that other people that you want to be around enjoy doing, then it's going to be easy.
So those black and white choices might be the easiest ones to make, yet reality is often more complex and gray, and on a scale, maybe you enjoy your startup life a 6 out of 10. Those decisions becomes more challenging then, I think. So if you like something 6 out of 10 that you're doing, how would you resonate?
So one thing that I read in a book called Essentialism, The Pursuit of Less, I think it's called. Great book. A couple of years ago, he spoke about the 90% rule. And it was, if you're doing anything and you ask yourself, okay, on a scale from 1 to 100, how important is this to me? How much do I enjoy it? Or getting a feel like, how much do I actually want to do this? Either because it's very meaningful or very joyful or whatever, but how much do I really want to do this? And if it's anything less than 90, he said, then it's a no. Because there are so many things in life that's going to be a 6 out of 10, that if you keep saying yes to all the 6 out of 10s, you're never going to find the 9 out of 10s or the 99 out of 100s, because you're stuck doing 6 out of 10s. So I believe that the best way is to say no to anything that feels like a 6, because otherwise you will never find the 9 or the 10 for that matter.
For me, it really helps to have a pre-plan that says, if I don't want to do something, at least a 6 out of 10, I don't do it. Preferably even higher. Maybe I want to do something an 8 out of 10. That much desire, that much meaning I want to feel into it to want to do it.
I like that. So basically using the same kind of rule then, but you're already pre-decided that I need to be this excited about something to say yes. So whenever you're feeling you're in a ballpark 6 out of 10, you know that that's a no. You don't need to make the decision with every 6 out of 10.
Exactly, because the other part about saying no is to be able to deal with discomfort, because you always risk to disappoint someone. And even though it builds trust, I think in the long run, when you leave that cinema, you risk disappoint someone. You risk making, you don't know how your fiance is going to react. And the more, I think, intimate the situation becomes, the more risky it is. So for example, again, with the sex example, for me, I have pre-decided that if I don't feel like having sex at least 6 out of 10 or more, my practice to practice saying no is to say no. And then I know, okay, I feel like this now. I feel this huge resistance and intensity towards saying no. I feel like I might disappoint her. But then I just do it because I already decided beforehand. There isn't this huge dialogue in my head that is saying, oh, blah, 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 blah.
You don't have to make the decision then and there. You've already made the rule for yourself, in a sense.
Yes, I already made a rule that if I don't feel more desire than this in the moment, then I will say no, regardless if it is uncomfortable.
That's kind of like me going to the gym. I know that I'm going there at 10 on Mondays. So if I'm feeling a little bit, it's raining outside, I don't really want to do it, I still made up my mind, I'm going at 10. While if I wouldn't have made that decision, I would say, it's raining, I'll do it tomorrow, and then it wouldn't have happened.
Exactly. And to me, it especially helps if I'm in a state where maybe I'm not my best self, I don't have that much energy, I feel a bit unclear. Then it really helps to have made that decision beforehand. Otherwise, it's so easy for me to say, no, I don't want to take this discomfort. I just rather do something I don't want. Nah, I don't really want to go to the gym. I'd rather just stay home today.
Okay, so that's the part about making the decision of saying no and just agreeing to then letting someone down, in a sense. Then how would you go about that when you're actually saying the words no?
Okay, so first of all, I'm obviously not doing this myself. I'm a hypocrite. We established that in the beginning of this episode. That said,
what would you say if in the world of rainbows and unicorns? How would you do this?
Yes, if I were to say no, I think I like the idea of leading with saying no pretty quickly. So, because if I'm gonna reject someone, that person usually feel that is coming. And if I make this huge preamble and saying a lot of words before, they're gonna feel like something is off. So
I'm still kind of stuck in the sex example here, which makes it feel weird. Can you put this in another example, another context of when you're saying a lot of things?
Okay, so I wasn't in the sex example.
No, I was still there, If you start talking about sex with me, I'm not going to leave that topic.
Got it.
So you need to paint me. Let's first say grandma's panties, grandma's panties, grandma's panties. Yeah, so now I'm out of the sex part. Let's go somewhere else.
So do you have an example for me then? It's going to be much easier.
Okay, so let's say you don't want this dinner that you had the other day, and you wanted to say no to that one. How would you go about that?
That's a perfect example. So if I call him and I say, hey man, you've been away for so long now. I'm really looking forward to seeing you. Being at a dinner with you, that sounded like so much fun. This week for me has been blah, blah, blah,
but...
blah, blah. Yes, he's just waiting. Can you say... It's almost like a little bit of torture. So I would much rather lead with saying, hey man, tonight I've felt in and I don't feel like I have the energy to have a dinner with you, and at the same time go up early the next morning and then say whatever I'm gonna do the next morning. So be quicker to the no.
Okay, so let's put this. So let's say it's
say I wish I had energy for the dinner.
Let's say it's Monday at 5 and you're supposed to meet him at 7. And you're calling him and already seeing your number on the phone, he's kind of feeling like, okay, he wants something, he wants to say something. And when you just start chit-chatting like nothing has happened, it's kind of obvious, like, yeah, you wouldn't call me to just chit-chat because we're meeting in 2 hours. Why don't you just get to the point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. So it would be better if you just start with
So
saying...
I would have liked to say, hey man, I feel ashamed to make this call because we have agreed to meet. And at the same time, I wish I had energy to meet with you tonight, but unfortunately, man, I'm like a 4 out of 10. And I wish I had more energy, but if I saw you tonight, then I wouldn't get the sleep that I need to do what I want to do for the rest of the week. So therefore, I'm going to say no to seeing you.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
So two things that I'm hearing now that stands out in this is that you started by saying that you're ashamed. Why why would you start there?
If I'm feeling ashamed. So I imagine myself feeling ashamed there because I have agreed to do something and then I'm changing my mind when it's that close. And if I rather would have felt I'm feeling like I'm being disrespectful for your time, or I'm feeling like I'm being a bad friend, whatever it is, I would say that I imagine myself feeling ashamed.
Why would you lead with your emotions? Does it make it easier to say it kind of for you, or does it feel
That's a very good question.
respectful, or...
I think I want him to be able to connect with me. And of course, I would only say something that I truly feel.
Yeah. So it feels respectful to say this is hard for me, to kind of show that this is actually painful to do this.
Yeah, exactly. I think, but I'm not sure that leads to connection.
Yeah. I can see that.
So that's a good pickup. And I'm glad you asked the question. Am I doing that from a manipulative place? Maybe.
I didn't get the feeling of manipulative. I like the way of doing it.
Neither. But it could have been, you know.
But you are feeling.
If I'm saying something that I don't feel, then that becomes manipulative.
Yeah.
Like if I'm saying that I'm sorry when I'm not, or I'm saying that, anything that isn't true becomes manipulative.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you're leading with the emotion, and you do that because it... Well, I would add to that, then it shows honesty. Like, this is the honest thing. You're actually already, by saying, I'm ashamed, you're kind of saying, here comes the bad news. So you're already there, you're not bullshitting. You're not going to say, hey, buddy, I'm ashamed, but good to hang out with you today. I'm really looking forward to it. Hey, by the way, I can't. It's not going to be the conversation.
Right.
So leading by that, it gives an opportunity to connect. It shows honesty and vulnerability, and it shows that you're actually struggling with something here. But you at the same time want to say that you don't want to do this because you want to build trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I picked up was you used the word wish. I wish that I. That's not a common word people use. What's the point of using that phrase?
Well, I don't want to say that. For example, if I say I don't have energy to see you tonight, that's not really true, because if I really, really, really wanted to see him, I could probably find energy within myself. But instead I say, I wish I had energy, and that is true, so I'm not lying. But I wish I had energy, but unfortunately I can't be with you tonight without sacrificing what I want to do tomorrow. So it's a way for me to say things that are true.
Yeah, so you're basically saying, I wish I had enough energy to do both the dinner tonight and the thing I want to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
it's also a way to show that I would like to have dinner with him.
Yeah.
Because that is also true. I probably really wished that I had energy to do both.
Yeah, and it shows that you're not saying no to him specifically. It's not personal.
Yeah.
It's just like you want to do this other thing as well. But if you were just to say, hey guy, I don't want to meet you tonight, that could be a very personal thing. It's like, oh, he doesn't like me. Oh, my breath smells funny, or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. So again, with the sex example, I would say the same thing. Hey, I see that you're very into this, or I assume, but I wish I had energy to do this and this and this with you. But right now, unfortunately, I only have energy to cuddle with you and offer something else instead.
Yeah. So how would you offer something else if it was this dinner example?
That's a very good question. Maybe a reschedule. Maybe can I call you in the week? Maybe ask him, can I do something to really show that I want to meet you? If that is true.
Yeah. Yeah, so sorry, can't do it today. How about Thursday at 7 instead, or something like that, where you're really already there showing that there is an alternative. If there is an alternative. I can imagine a lot of the times where I wanted to say no to dinner, the reason is often that I want to say no. And then it's hard to offer an alternative.
Yeah.
And it's going to be harder to say no. To be fair, it's harder to say no the times you want to say no because you want to say no than it is when you're actually having somewhat of a reason for it.
So I would put the limelight back on Mr. Bergman then. So someone asks you for dinner.
Yes.
Or maybe you already agreed to go to dinner, but now you realize that, you know what, I actually don't want to go to dinner with this person.
So I've already said yes, but I'm catching myself and
afterwards realizing that this is not a relationship I want to put my energy into.
So I'll be honest and say that I would still go to the dinner if I had already said yes, because I wouldn't be honest enough with myself to suck it up and say that. However, let's say that I haven't said yes already, and I would, then I'm actually getting better and better at saying no to these kinds of things. And I'm getting into this situation every now and then. Then I'm really looking for what is the reason. So I had this situation quite recently with a friend who asked if he could come to a dinner where we were several people at that dinner. It's really tricky to say no to number 6 who wants to come to a dinner. And at the same time, for me, it was important that that dinner was small. I wanted to spend time with these friends I haven't seen for a long time. And it tended to be louder the more people we were. And there were 2 more people coming. And I really felt into like, I don't want this dinner to be bigger. I wouldn't mind to have dinner with just him and the other guy at a small setting as well. So the main reason why I didn't want that dinner was that I didn't want it to be a big setting. That became the main reason, and it's true. I don't like big dinners among men who drink because it gets loud, and I don't like loud dinners. So then that became my reason, and I said to him, I've been really looking forward to having this calm and peaceful dinner. And when we get more people, it tends to get loud, and I don't like myself in loud environments, which is actually true because I don't get to interact in a good way. So I'm going to say no because of that. And that's a real live example that happened a couple of weeks ago. But if I would have said yes already, I wouldn't have been brave enough to stick to my no afterwards. Then I would have stick to my yes, I believe.
So it's another very interesting situation. And I think we could find 100 of them. So instead, because I don't want this to escalate into a 15-hour podcast, I'm going to summarize by saying that what I learned today is that no is a very useful skill because it obviously happens in all areas of life. We've figured out today. We could talk about this for 15 hours with examples. And 2 is that no is often a gray area. It's not always that the black and white ones are simple, but when it becomes a gray area, it can become really, really challenging. And the real world is messy. It's not rainbows and unicorns. So I think how to say no is something for me to contemplate and explore with friends often.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think...
What do you take with you?
I think that it's so important to realize that every yes is a no to something else. Every time you go and see the Joker is a time you don't go and see the Lion King. Regardless if you are making the decision or not, you're always saying no to something else. To me, that makes it so clear that you need to be very picky with what you say yes to. Because whatever you say yes to means saying no to everything else at that moment. And it's probably better to say no to too many things than to too few.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're a person who says no to too much already, then say yes to everything for a while.
Again, complexity. Next week we talk about something easy.
Yeah. The only thing you need to say yes to is this. You can say no to anything else you want. But now say yes. Think yes. Yes. And then I'd like you to go to iTunes and rate this podcast with 5 stars.
And then you will fall asleep and wake up wanting to watch all the episodes of the Becoming Great podcast.
Yeah.
And share them to all your friends.
Over and over and over. Thank you for having this podcast with me, Emil.
Thank you. Thank you, Herc. This was fun.
This was fun.
I'll see you next
Cheers.
week. Bye.